Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
I am almost at a loss for words, but not quite at a loss for words. But let me just say this. In my 30 years of being a Mets fan, I have seen some really ugly, horrible, terrible losses. I've seen Ryan Church fail to touch third base on a home run. I have seen throwing errors to home plate to get walked off. I've seen Lucas Duda and Daniel Murphy's throwing errors in the World Series. I saw Yoenis Cespedes turn a routine flyout into an inside the park home run in game 1 of the 2015 World Series. I saw Timo Perez do the same thing in 2000 and forget to run the bases in the first game of that series. I've seen just about every conceivable way to lose in the most heartbreaking, painful, awful, terrible fashion. But given the way that the Mets have been playing for, I would say going on about 2 weeks now, dating back to that series against the Padres where they got swept, given what happened on Wednesday when they were nearly no hit, this is in the pantheon of horrible losses that I have ever seen for the New York Mets. In fact, I have come up with a new catchphrase for this franchise. Let me know how it is. Leave this video a like if you think this is a good new catchphrase that the Mets can use. The New York Mets inventing new ways to lose since 1962. Say it again. The New York Mets inventing new ways to lose since 1962. This is one of the most painful losses that I have seen in a long time. And that is really saying something because this franchise is known for sticking the knife in their fans and twisting it and then twisting it the other way as they have a woeful 5th inning that includes a fielding error from Kodai Senga, promptly gives up the game-tying 2-run homer to tie this one. Game-tying homer, it's pretty self-explanatory. The Mets then are called for a catcher's interference on Francisco Alvarez behind the plate to put runners at first and second. And then with the bases loaded, a hit batsman to force in the go-ahead run. As the Mets fall behind 3-2 to that point, their only offense, solo home runs from Juan Soto and from Starling Marte. The Mets only get 1 hit from the second inning up until 2 outs in the 9th. Somehow, it's still a 3-2 game. Starling Marte coming through with a laced double into the right center field gap. Standing at second as the potential game-tying run, Jeff McNeil with a little flare into center field. And it is an absolute perfect throw to nail Marte at the plate as the potential game-tying run and end this ball game. I am losing my mind. I cannot believe what I just watched. After nearly getting no hit the day before, after dropping 3 games to the Phillies in the standings over the last week, losing 8 of 9, the Mets have now lost 9 of 10. They come out as lifeless as they have all week long as far as their offense, and that's how this game ends. I've never seen anything like it. This is just the most heartbreaking, brutal, crushing, just absolutely awful stretch of baseball that I've seen from a Mets team in a long time. And you can probably hear it in my voice. I feel defeated at this point. I don't know how you change it. The offense, again, horrible. The bad bounces, the bad luck, the catcher's interference, a fielding error from Senga that looked like a routine, easy play. You bring in Brooks Raley, who's been great since returning from his injury. First batter he faces. throws the ball off of his foot to walk in the game, go ahead, run. And even all of that transpires. Even though the Mets only have one hit after the second inning, the Mets are still in this game and only trailing by a run. And they somehow still found a way to make this an even more painful loss than I could have possibly imagined. This is the death of a team. They look like they have had their death moment of the season. They have not shown one time this whole year the ability to bounce back from adversity, from any bad bounces, whether you want to think of it figuratively in terms of injuries or just a bad, poor stretch where they lose a couple of games, or in the moment, in games where things just start to get away from them. They haven't shown that to us at all this whole season, and I am beginning to get to the point where I just don't see this team finding a way to dust themselves off and get back to playing the way that we all thought they were going to this year. They drop 9 of their last 10 games. They have lost 5 in a row, and they are now 3.5 games behind the Phillies in the National League East. I'm very close to saying that this team is dead. Not quite, but I can't see how this team is going to find a way to bounce back because I haven't seen it from them all year long, and they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Self-inflicted wounds. They don't field the ball well. They can't hit. When they do hit, they can't pitch. They get a lead. They give it back. It's mind-numbing. It is mind-numbing. This was supposed to be a stream all about how the Mets can't hit. And we know the Mets can't hit. It's been ridiculous now for 2+ weeks, but really the entire season. But we were thinking, maybe there's a couple other areas that need some improvement of this team. But no, instead, the Mets come out once again lifeless on offense. The bullpen does its job, and somehow they still found a way to make this even more painful. Let me go to the chat, guys. What's up? Appreciate y'all tuning in. This is a therapy session, guys. This is it. Let's all say what we loved most about the 2025 Mets because they are on the doorstep of death. I hope you're wearing black. I am tonight because this might just be a funeral for the 2025 New York Mets. That's one of the most excruciating losses that I have seen in a long time. Pro Wheels, this team is becoming sad to watch at this point. I don't know about becoming. I would say they have been sad for a long time, but I am in total agreement with you there, Pro Wheels. Absolutely terrible. Worse than the 1992 Mets at this point, he says. I mean, this team at least has given us some hope with how they played the first 2 months of this season. I don't think that the 92 Mets really ever did that. I know they hung around until late July. They kind of got back, but I don't think there was as much belief as this one. So that one's either more painful or less painful, depending how you look at it. But yeah, given how the Mets have been, assembled here with the largest payroll in baseball, this is just like the 92 Mets, the worst team that money could buy. Danny Caps, all I can do is laugh, and appropriately comments that in all caps. I mean, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, right? That's it. This is just insane work that the Mets have been doing to torture us as fans. Pro Wheels, can't blame you at this point. Chewy Baseball 11, why are we not pinch running? So we just heard from SMY's postgame recap talking about, hey, that's a spot where if Luis Angel Acuna was on this roster, he could have been pinch running there. But I mean, dude, the Mets have just, we're cursed. We're snake bitten. I know Starling Marte doesn't run like he used to run, but that was a freaking bloop into center field. Could you imagine the Mets ever throwing a runner out at the plate there to end the game on that bloop of a base hit? No way. No how that happens to the Mets when we're on defense. But against us, it's an absolute dime perfect throw from center field to Nab Marte. And again, I know he is not as fast as what he used to be, but I still didn't think there was a chance he was going to get thrown out at the plate. That being said, Luis Angel Acuna, probably is safe there. So another case to demote Brett Beatty and bring Acuna back up, because that is twice now in the span of 5 games where having Acuna's speed off the bench maybe brings home the game-winning or game-tying run. The one on Monday against the Guardians where it was Tyrone Taylor and got held up, and then today Mike Sarabao sending him, which obviously turns out to be the wrong choice. It wasn't a bad decision in my opinion to send Marte there. 100% you have to do it, especially with what happened on Monday. But that being said, 0 for 2 for Mike Sarabao. Edward Christian Aquan says why, or you said why. Oh, you both said it. Why Mets didn't pinch run for Marte? I mean, who do you go to? I guess you could have went to Tyrone Taylor there, but I mean, I thought Marte had decent enough speed that he would score on that one. Apparently not. Yeah, you probably should have put Tyrone Taylor in to pinch run there. I mean, this is just like a sick joke. The other day we're talking about Tyrone Taylor should have been pinch ran for Luis Angel Acuna if he was on the roster, and Mets would have won against the Guardians. And now today we're saying Tyrone Taylor should have been pinch running for Starling Marte, and he would have been safe for the game-tying run tonight. It's just, I can't believe what has happened to this team. The bad breaks, the bad luck. I mean, this team is either not making the playoffs or they're winning the World Series, because you don't go this type of adversity without becoming a great team, or you let it sink you. And I am leaning much more toward the latter, that they are going to let it sink them, as they are now 3.5 games behind the Phillies in the National League East. I'm not ready to say the NL East is over. The Mets still have 7 games with them, but I'm getting dangerously close to saying that is in fact the case. Danny Caps, Marte was running fast, just a better throw. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. It's a perfect throw. It doesn't make me any less upset about it. This only happens to us. I'm sorry. Tell me I'm wrong. Spot the lie. This never happens to other teams. I don't see it, at least. We never do it to other teams. This is the most ridiculous way to lose, considering everything that has gone on for the last 2 weeks, considering how this game was going for basically the entire majority of it. This is a sick joke by the sports gods, again, at the expense of us as Mets fans. Christopher T, tough times. That is an understatement, my man. That is an understatement. Tough times. These are the worst of times. And not the best of times. You know the saying, who was it? Frost, or one of the great poets or writers of the world, right? Hemingway, perhaps. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. No, this is outright the worst of times that I have had as a Mets fan in quite some time. This is unbelievable how bad the Mets have been playing and how excruciating most of these losses have been. You follow up getting 1 hit at home on Wednesday with this type of performance, this 5th inning that included 2 errors and a hit batsman to bring in the go-ahead run. You get 1 hit from the 2nd inning on, leading until the 9th inning with 2 outs. You get the tying run at second base, and you get him thrown out at home as the potential game-tying run. That is just a sick joke by the sports gods. And again, Mets fans, we are left to pick up the pieces. What is new? D-Rails, what's up? Yo, he says, I'm done, Tony. D-Rails, I understand. I would be done with this team too if I had the choice, but I'm here and I'm doing my thing, and I appreciate you guys all being here. But D-Rails, I hope you're not actually done and you're still tuned in here. At least you could tell us that you told us so, because D-Rails is always with it and on top of things. Jimmy James C, they're not good. They can't hit. I mean, they can't hit. I mean, we can like bitch and moan about how Marte got thrown out and this guy should be pinch running for that guy and that guy should have been pinch running for this guy on Monday. It doesn't matter, because they don't hit. If we are going to let a couple of feet dictate every single game on the base paths because we made a bunch of errors, you're not going to win a whole lot of games. This is just like Monday's game. The Mets are either under-aggressive or overly aggressive on the base pass, and it's the Mets defense that comes back to bite them. And oh, by the way, because the Mets lineup is completely lifeless. You're just not going to win a lot of games. This is worse than that stretch of baseball that we saw back in June and July. Honestly, this is even worse because these losses, man, this is like a highlight reel of ways to lose. I said it in the beginning of the stream. If you didn't hear me, I have a new catchphrase for this organization. The New York Mets finding new ways to lose since 1962. They have found some of the most impressive, creative, and absolutely soul-crushing ways to lose ball games for my entire 30 years of existence. But this one is in the pantheon. This is in the top 5, maybe top 10. I'd have to really go through it all. Maybe that'll be a video idea that I do soon. It'll only be losses I personally witnessed. But this is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 or top 8, let's call it, losses that I have seen from the Mets in a long, long time. Danny Caps, I would spread Lindor, Soto, Pete out of the 2, 3, 4 spots just to see if it sparks the team up. Why not? Can't be any worse. I totally agree with you, man. Why not? Have Lindor lead off. Put Soto 5. Put Pete 7. I don't know. I mean, why freaking not at this point? This is insane. And I've heard a lot of other Mets fans recently saying, hey, why not try Juan Soto leading off? And the dude only hits solo home runs anyway. He's hitting under 200 with runners in scoring position, but he's got an on-base percentage around 400 or above 400. Why not have Juan Soto lead off? You might as well try something different at this point because this ain't it. I get they're shuffling it around. They're putting Lindor leadoff one day, then he's 2, then Nimmo's leadoff, then Nimmo's cleanup. They're changing it up a little bit, but nothing is working. I'm out of ideas, and I am willing to try anything with this team. Edward Christian Aquan says, I mean, I'm still rooting for the Mets, but they don't have any heart lately, no passion, no hustle, only gunning for big hits instead of hitting. Starting pitchers are only pitching till the 5th. Horrible. It's a complete recipe for disaster. Kodai Senga was looking really solid through the first 4 innings of this game. Then he commits that brutal error to put the leadoff runner aboard the very next pitch before you could even blink an eye, and it's 2-2. And then after that, walks, base hit, the what do they call it? Catcher's interference on Francisco Alvarez. All of a sudden, bases are loaded. You bring in Brooks Raley, and he hits his first batter on the foot to force in the go-ahead run. What kind of cruel, sick joke are we living as Mets fans? What did we do in our previous lives to deserve what has been going on and happening to us, not only this year, but for our entire lives as fans of this team? You could not script this in Hollywood to be any more painful and excruciating than what we just watched here tonight. But the recipe for failure, your starting pitcher can't seem to go past the 5th inning ever. Your relievers up and down, but let's be honest, they've been tremendous since those acquisitions at the trade deadline. And then the lineup that literally does nothing. If they scored 2, just like on Tuesday against the Guardians on a couple home runs, they go, that's all right. We're good for today. That's all right. The pitching will carry us the rest of the way. 2-0 lead, 2-1 lead. We're good. By the way, Philly absolutely taking it to Texas tonight. 9-1 in the bottom of the 9th. Oh, could you imagine the Mets scoring 9 runs on 11 hits? So the Mets are 3 games back, and we are dangerously close to being closer to the Marlins for 3rd place than the Mets are to 1st place with the Phillies. The Marlins are 8.5 back of the Phillies. The Mets are 3 games back. They will be 3.5 by the time tonight is over. The Marlins already concluded M1. So the Mets will be 5 games ahead of the Marlins and 3.5 behind the Phillies. We are nearly as close to 3rd place in the National League East as we are to 1st place. This is just an insane fall from grace for this team. Jimmy James, see, the worst game since the last one. This is like the Simpsons movie. If you remember that quote, Bart says, "This is the worst day of my life." And Homer says, "The worst day of your life so far." That is literally being a Mets fan. It just finds a way to get worse every freaking time. Guys, if you haven't left this video a like already, please go ahead and do that. Really appreciate it. If you want to tip the stream, keep things going here, I appreciate that as well. You could do that on super chats here on YouTube, or you could go to the donation jar. Link is in the bio for that. All that money goes to Mookie's Bone Funds. Mookie, my German Shepherd, of course named after Mookie Wilson. He's laying right here behind me. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Let's see. Edward, Christian, Aquan, they need a team meeting or at least a dugout fight just to wake them up. Mendoza's too laid back and can have a moment this year. Eric Chavez needs to go, but this is a full team collapse. LGM. Full team collapse. Full team collapse 100%, man. It's just insane what we're seeing from this team. They already tried the team meeting. Clearly that didn't do anything. So what's the point in even doing another one, honestly, at this point? I feel like everything that probably needed to be said was said in that team meeting after they held it in Pittsburgh. And guess what? The next day they went out and got lambasted by the Pirates in what was a series sweep. Finishing sweep. Yeah, whatever. They won Sunday to finish the sweep against us. So that team meeting didn't even work. Like, I am all game for anything that will turn this team around. Team meetings, dress up day. I don't know anything at this point because this is not working. I'm so disgusted with this team right now. Edward Christian Aquan. Sorry, bro. That whole three names is so tough for me sometimes. Demoting the Fab Four to hit around 4 to 6 maybe sparks a flame to them. Maybe promoting our prospects will inspire Mets pitching staff. Maybe Mendoza calling the lack of motivation will start a run. I don't know what's going to, but something's got to give, guys. Something has got to give because this isn't just like Panic City now. This is like you have another loss or two in the next series. Like, we're done. We're probably not going to make the playoffs. You have lost 9 out of 10. You have lost 5 in a row. You already lost your last 3 series, including getting swept in 2 of them. And now we're playing the best team in baseball. And to have a night like tonight, I just don't see how they turn it around. If it doesn't happen fast, they are going to be out of the playoff race before you know it. Chewy Baseball says, just want to say I came from your TikTok and I really enjoy watching your content. Chewy, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, if you guys don't follow me on TikTok, I post on there as well. You can follow that. That's in the link to that is in the description of this video. I apologize, but thank you, Chewy. I appreciate you coming over here, my man. Red Bear Fox, Starling Marte was running fast and is embarrassing. Dude, don't make complete ridiculous I mean, it's Starling Marte. He's got some of the better speed on this team. He's probably the next fastest guy after Tyrone Taylor on this team. Maybe Lindor, but who even knows with his broken toe. So yeah, obviously you could have pinch ran Tyrone Taylor for Starling Marte, but again, I go back to why is Luis Angel Acuna not on this roster? We are wasting it on Brett Beatty. The only reason that Brett Beatty is on this roster is because they need a lefty bat because Jesse Winker has a broken back apparently, and we'll probably never see him in a Mets uniform again. But Beatty literally brings nothing to the table but errors and groundouts. At the very least, Luis Angel Acuna plays solid defense, and maybe if he was pinch running tonight or pinch running on Monday, the Mets could have won Monday's game and potentially tied this game tonight in the 9th inning. Just absolutely awful. Edward Christian Aquan says, and now we're 3rd in the wild card race. Reds are slumping right now, and Finns are still gaining momentum. They need a spark for this season. Leaving runners on in scoring position, starting pitching, giving up 3 to 5 runs. Brutal. Every single facet of this team is broken right now. The lineup is brutal. Actually, I'll take that back and I'll explain everything. The lineup, though, of course, we know is broken. I mean, it's about as broken as anything. Then you've got the starting pitching that can't seem to go past the 5th inning. If they even reach the 5th inning, it is a slog for them to get 1 or 2 outs, and usually they're getting taken out by that time for a reliever. And then the defense for this team has been horrific lately, and it was on full display in the 5th inning once again tonight. The one thing not broken clearly is the bullpen. The bullpen has been lights out for this team. Unfortunately, they're never working with a lead. It's always trying to keep games close, keep games within reach, because the lineup sucks. The starting pitching has been shitty, and this team is cratering at meteoric speeds into the ground. Their playoff hopes fizzling game by game by game. Let's go back to the chat. Jimmy James C. I don't think they should keep shifting the lineup. What good is it going to do in the off chance they actually make the playoffs? They need consistency. I mean, at this point, do anything to get in the playoffs because I'm not even sure if this team is going to make the playoffs based on how they have been playing here for the last 2 weeks, based on what we saw during that slump in June and July. It is going by like that, guys. It is the middle of August, right? We are just entering the second week of the month, and the Mets have lost 4 games in the division to the Phillies now over the last week, and the Marlins are quickly catching up, not to mention the wild card race where we used to have a nice cozy cushion between us and the other teams for the first spot in the National League wild card. They have now been bumped down to the 3rd spot and have to worry about the likes of Cincinnati, who, by the way, took it to us to open the second half, and Miami, who have always been a pain in our ass. Michael Sklo, Mendoza is the worst manager in baseball. The game is too fast for him. I mean, I don't see what Mendoza did wrong tonight, other than if you want to say he should have pinch ran Tyrone Taylor for Starling Marte there. That's the only thing that I could say. And I get it, but I thought Marte had comparable speed to Taylor there. I do. And I mean, clearly he's out, but who's to say Taylor wouldn't have been out in that spot too? That's all I'm saying. But I thought he went to the bullpen at the right time to get Senga out. Unfortunately, Rayleigh spits the bit by hitting the first batter that he faces. From there, he didn't throw out any of those scrub relievers. He brought in, Tyler Rogers, brought in Stanek, which was a little concerning there, but he had a scoreless inning. So I don't think it was too poorly managed of a game from Mendoza today, other than if you want to say he should have pinch ran Tyrone Taylor, which, yes, obviously there is a question about that. Great news, everybody. Frankie Montas is tomorrow. Oh my God. We're so cooked. We're so cooked, guys. I don't see how it turns around. I don't see how the Mets don't get swept in this series by Milwaukee. Frankie Montas tomorrow. I don't even care who's pitching Sunday, but who cares at this point, right? Like, this is insane. Let's see. Red Bear Fox says Chavez going back and forth with fans. Mendoza's backhanded comments about the hitting coaches. Stern saying he's confident in the hitting coaches. All shows organizational dysfunction. There is definitely something to be said about that, especially when you look at that potential burner account that Chavez or Barnes or somebody close to them was running, which it's very clear it had to have been every single tweet from that account. I made a video on it. You guys could check it out after the stream here. Every single tweet from this account on Twitter is defending Chavez and Barnes, calling out other Mets Twitter users saying they're so good at their job, they deserve a promotion and this and that. If that is true, that it was Chavez, Barnes, or somebody close to them, they have got to be out of this organization right freaking now. An investigation should absolutely take place about that. I'm 100% there with you. Let's see. Red Bear says, I'm starting to think this team's issues are much deeper and more at an organizational level than just on the field issue. I mean, who else in playoff contention has been through a streak like this? Who else has suffered these kinds of losses, has had this anemic of an offense day in, day out for 2 straight weeks on multiple different occasions throughout the season, who have this many pitching issues, who have this many questions about their starter, like in the case of Frankie Montas? There are not other playoff teams that have these issues. And Red Bear Fox, you might be on it, man. This could be a deeper rooted thing that goes well into the organization, not just the guys in this clubhouse right now. Something is amiss with this franchise. I can't believe this is what we're talking about. D-Rail says, hopefully they get into a fist fight. Man, that would be nice. I don't even know if any of the dudes on this team would actually throw a punch, though. Because let's think about it. Let's think about it figuratively. When I always say this team gets punched in the mouth and they don't punch back. They lay down and they take it. Do you really think that they'd get in an actual physical fight and punch back? I don't see anybody on this roster doing that. I don't see a single dude on this team that I think would intimidate any of the other guys in the other clubhouse in a physical fist fight. I just don't. And it speaks volumes about them as players on the field too. Jesse Winker might be the one lunatic, but he's not even on the team right now. Mumbik Grembele, I don't know how to say that name. Gelb said it tonight. The Mets have not won a game while trailing in the 8th. That's the worst stat I have ever heard. And this team was full of comebacks and magic last year in the late innings, right? In 2024, you just kind of expected the Mets to make a comeback once they fell behind. They would fall behind, they'd answer right back the next inning. What happens with the Mets here today, and what has happened with them so often throughout 2025? They have that one blow-up inning. In this case, it's the fifth with all the errors and the hit batsman, and they go 1, 2, 3 before you could even finish your dinner. And they went 1, 2, 3 the next inning, and they went 1, 2, 3 the next inning. Do it with me, guys. It could be a little dance. The Mets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. How many batters in a row were retired at one point in the middle innings of this game once they started trailing? I think it was 12, 13 in a row, maybe. Does that sound familiar? Like the 14 in a row that were retired on Tuesday that led into Wednesday's near no-hitter. So it was about 43 consecutive outs without a base hit in the final 2 games of that stretch of that series versus Cleveland. And you followed up tonight by getting, what, a handful of hits? None from the second inning on, or just one from the second inning on? That is just unbelievable. And then you finally get 2 in the 9th, and the second one, you end up getting the potential game-tying run thrown out at the plate. You can't make it up, guys. This is just insane stuff. Red Bear Fox, Tony, look at the metrics. Marte is one of the slower runners in baseball now. He's like the 28th percentile in sprint speed. I'll give it to you, man. He should have ran Tyrone Taylor there. That is on Mendoza, 100%. Let's find out and hear what he had to say about that, actually. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here in just a second. But again, guys, be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate it. If you want to leave me a tip in here to keep the streams going in the future, I appreciate that too. You could do super chats, or you could go to the link in the description of this video to the tip jar. Let's go back to the chat real quick before we hear from Carlos Mendoza and his mind-numbing decision not to pinch run Tyrone Taylor for Starling Marte there. Kev Chada, did it make sense to make deadline trades with a streaky team and bad starting pitching? I mean, yeah, but they should have probably got a starting pitcher, and then they probably should have got a center fielder that could hit, because Cedric Mullins stinks on ice. What, 1 hit and 18 at bats now? He looks equally as lifeless as the rest of this friggin' lineup. Cedric Mullins fits in perfectly with this team. We heard that the Mets didn't want to trade either Acuna or Vientos, and I don't know if Beatty was mentioned, but one other prospect as well in a trade that would have brought Luis Robert Jr. here. But again, I'm not saying Robert Jr. was going to turn this lineup around, but we should have got some legitimate help for this lineup, and we should have got a starting pitcher instead of tripling down on the bullpen, which again has been great, but it doesn't do a whole lot when you can't score any runs and you never have a lead. Back to the chat. Mark, MLB has Marte's sprint speed listed at 26th percentile. Taylor is at the 95th percentile. It's 100%, guys. You're dead on. I wasn't aware of those stats coming into this one, but you're 100% on. Starling Marte should have been pinch ran for with Tyrone Taylor there. That is a huge mistake by Carlos Mendoza. And again, look, guys, I mean, truthfully, do you really think the Mets will win this game even if they tie it there in the 9th? I personally still don't think they win, but we'll never know now. We'll never actually know, and that is hugely falls squarely, I should say, on the shoulders of Carlos Mendoza. Let's see. Rod says, I've given up hope. If we want to give up, just give up. If they want to not show up, don't show up. I would respect them more for them to do that than consistently shit the bed. Oh my God. They are crapping all down their legs, all for us to see. It is really just brutal, Rod. Mark says, the unfantastic four, of course, after Steve Cohen dubbed them the Fantastic Four. What have they been since? Anything but. Just terrible. Rod says, Mendoza looks like he wants to shoot himself in the foot. That's what this team does. So yeah, it would kind of make sense if he followed suit with that. Rod, we should have got Bader back. I agree with that, man. When I saw he went to the Phillies, I said they just got a gamer and a clubhouse guy. We should have tried to bring Bader back. Nope. We brought in Cedric Mullins. Oh, that was great. Rod says, I wish they traded Mr. 4-3. I think you're talking about Brett Beatty, right? I hope that's who you're talking about, because that's who I call Mr. 4-3. Sandman Games. Hi, Tony the Legend. No, Sandman, you're the legend. Guys, you can check out Sandman Games channel as well. He does a great job doing MLB The Show, his Road to the Show, my player, whatever they call it these days. All right, let's go back over here. Let's share. Let me help. Okay, wait, where am I? Here I am. All right, let's hear from Carlos Mendoza on the decision not to pinch run Tyrone Taylor there in the 9th inning. I'm sure he's going to have a great reason why. Okay, yeah, he's a good runner too, he said. I don't know if you guys could hear that. Let me know if you could, because it looks like the volume is oh, here we go. I figured it out. That's why. Okay, so here again is when Mendoza is asked if he should have pinch ran Starling Marte with Tyrone Taylor.
Thought to go Taylor there as a pinch runner.
No, he's fine. He's a good runner too.
Yeah, no, well, the sprint speed would say otherwise, as many of you have suggested here in the chat. So not sure about that one, Mendy. Thanks a lot. Yeah, even Mark of Draftneck Mark says Marte is not a good runner. This is 2025. He has bad knees and is statistically slow. WTF are we talking about? That is absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal, 100%. Here's what he had to say. Hell of a play by Perkins. Yeah, hell of a way to make me want to throw up dinner.
Hell of a play by Perkins. You know, we know he's a solid defender with a plus arm, and he showed it right there. You know, he came in, attacked that single in a perfect one hop to the plate, you know, to win the game. So, yeah.
2 outs there, you have to send them there.
Oh, yeah, you got to take your chances, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. You got to send him there, but not on Monday. Nope, not on Monday, but today, 100%. Got to take your chances there. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, different situations. There were 1 out with Soto and Alonso coming up on Monday. Tonight, 2 outs going toward the bottom of the order. But again, Sarba 0 for 2 this week. But still, you may have actually scored him if you had pinch ran Tyrone Taylor there. Sandman Game says, if I don't laugh, I will go crazy. I already am crazy. But yeah, no, I would say that I'm laughing at my decision to become a Mets fan. What an idiot. I am laughing at my past self. Sandman says, Stern says our hitting coach is good and we are competitive. I want what he's drinking. Oh, he must be having a real stiff drink if he's saying that. I did see he said that earlier in the afternoon today. Here's what Mendoza had to say about Senga. Not a terrible outing, but not a terrible outing, but obviously the wheels all fall off for Senga there in the 5th inning, and he's really the catalyst for it as he makes that error to put the leadoff runner aboard.
He hasn't been able to go beyond 5 innings yet since returning from the IL. How concerning is that for you right now?
I'm not concerned because, like I said, there was a lot better signs today there. You know, fastball had life. The forkball was a lot better. You know, the secondary pitches were in the strike zone. Like, he competed in the strike zone. Like I said, we didn't make a play. Couple of errors and then a couple of walks. But, you know, there was definitely some positive signs from Senga today.
Yeah, and I like this comment here from Red Bear Fox. He says, we need to lay off the pitching. The whole pitching narrative has gotten out of hand. The last 5 games, the pitching has given up 4, 6, 2, 1, and 2 runs, and they lost all of them. That's not the pitching. Well, they gave up 3 runs today, but I'm with you there, Red Bear Fox. The pitching hasn't been terrible outside of Frankie Montas last Sunday. Senga obviously has not been pitching as well as we know he's capable of, but for the most part, the Mets pitching has given them a chance to win games, but the lineup has simply been awful. You cannot win when your lineup is going 4, 5, 6, sometimes 9+ innings without a base hit. It is not going to work. It is not the mark of a playoff team, let alone a World Series team. This lineup is absolutely pathetic. Joe says Mets needed bats and all we got was Mullins. Mullins has just been such a disappointment. Like I said, he looks as lethargic and as just unenthused and uninspired as the rest of this lineup. He fits in perfectly with the rest of these guys. We're not going to hear from Senga and his interpreter. By the way, the Yankees had another brutal loss with Devin Williams. I mean, I don't care. It's fun when the Yankees lose, but not very fun when the Mets are losing as well. Who really cares? Let's see what Marte had to say. He said, he's again through an interpreter, you've got to give credit to the throw from Perkins. Basically, right now it's not going the way we want, but eventually it's going to turn, and it's going to turn quickly. Really? When and how? Because last I checked, playoff teams don't combine for 5 hits today, and what was it? 1 hit yesterday? Okay, so 6 hits in the last 2 games. And what did they have the day before that? I think it was 4 in game 2 against the Guardians. So we're looking at what? I think 4, 5, 1, 10 hits in their last 3 games. 10 runs in your last 3 games isn't very good. 10 hits in your last 3 games is Rockies-like. But I can't even say that because the Rockies play in Denver. They play at Coors Field in the altitude. So even the Rockies probably could do better than 10 hits over a 3-game stretch. But don't forget the slogan, guys. The new slogan for this franchise, the New York Mets inventing new ways to lose since 1962. Another brutal, awful, excruciating loss for the New York Mets tonight. What's up, guys? Appreciate y'all tuning in. We see some new people coming in. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game, including this horrible, ugly, disgusting loss. They're 5th in a row. They're 9th in their last 10 games for the Mets today, as they are about to fall 3.5 games behind the Phillies in the NL East standings. They are now the 3rd wildcard team, with the Miami Marlins and the Cincinnati Reds hot on their heels. Sound off in the jack, guys. How you feeling? Answer me this. Are the Mets going to make the playoffs in 2025? Because I am so dead ass when I say I am getting very close to saying no. I am dangerously close to hosting the funeral for this team. I thought there's no way that you could top the loss that they just had yesterday, getting one hit in the series finale where you're looking to avoid a sweep at home after blowing the game on Monday the way they did, after losing 2 out of 3 to the Giants, after getting swept by San Diego, chasing you in the standings at that point in time. I thought, no way that the Mets could possibly have a worse loss today. And I think they actually outdid themselves. I think the Mets truly have set a new mark, a new low for us as fans here tonight. Back to the chat. Rod said, at this point, if we keep on with this shit, we won't be playing in the playoffs. And LOL, Mets is back. If the Mets don't make the playoffs this year, guys, put your Mets hats in your closet, because you do not want to be seen wearing them out in public. You will get roasted more than anything you've ever seen on Food Channel. Let me tell you that, okay? More than Guys Grocery Games, more than Triple D, because this would be an embarrassment to sign Juan Soto to a $765 million contract, to play the way they did the first 2 months of this season, to have the highest payroll in the game for what, now the 2nd or 3rd consecutive year, and to miss the playoffs and in the fashion that they are doing it in. Hide your kids, hide your wife, right? Hide your Mets hats, hide your Mets jerseys. As you can tell, I ain't wearing mine tonight. I haven't worn mine for a stream in a while here. I don't put that back on until they start showing us, the fans, some respect with their play. This has been absolutely insanely bad. Chewy, y'all got to chill on Mullins. I think he's really good. I mean, I don't know what tells you that Mullins is very good. What is he now so far since he joined the Mets? I think 1 for 18. I think that he had some of the worst metrics in all of baseball while he was with Baltimore earlier this year. But let's see if they do break up that split. Here with the Mets so far, Cedric Mullins in 6 games, and I don't believe this is counting today's stats where he should have had 3 at-bats, so maybe it does 17. That sounds about right, but let's see. 1 hit in 17 at-bats. Cedric Mullins has an .059 average so far as a New York Met, and I get it. He's new. He just got traded. You got to give him a little bit of a break, but for real, 1 for 17, come on. I don't know, especially for a guy that was coming to the team already with some of the worst metrics in the entire league. So I don't think there's any reason that we need to lay off. But Red Bear Fox, no one or even 2 bats would have done anything for this lineup at the deadline. None that were probably available, I'll give you that. I thought it would have been nice to get Eugenio Suarez. I think it would have added just more than anything, not just a 35 home run bat, but it would have added protection for Pete Alonso. It would have lengthened this lineup. I think it would have taken some pressure off of Mark Vientos, who I think could have slotted into the DH spot, where we're not relying on him to be that prodigious power guy anymore. But that would have been a start. You look at what else the Mariners got in Josh Naylor. That's an offensive guy with a profile I really like. But Cedric Mullins is. That's it. Y'all wanted Eugenio Suarez, but you ain't got Eugenio Suarez money. So you get Cedric Mullins. Rod says, no, they're not. And I hope they sell and just get prospects and tank, because I would rather have that than this shit. Well, too late for that now. Trade deadline is passed. This is the team we have, and I gotta be honest, I hate them. I don't like this team. This ain't like the 2024 team, man. There's just nothing really likable about this team. And it's not just because they're playing poor. Even when they were playing well, you just always kind of felt like you were waiting for the other foot to drop, and it has dropped like a spike right down on our face. It has been just an epic collapse from this team with some of the worst losses, some of the worst offensive performances, pitching performances, defensive performances, all mixed in throughout this entire time. Rod says, if I had more optimism, what happened? If I had more optimism for the Jets than the Mets, we have a big problem, man. Don't even get me started about the Jets. Please, I am not ready to start thinking about the Jets. I am trying to keep them as far off of my mind as possible. At the least, with the Jets, there's no expectations this year. But they're still going to be the Jets. They're still going to be awful. And if they even somehow get into a playoff mix toward the end of the year, they'll find a way to choke, just like they did in 2015, just like the Mets always choke. It's just a vicious cycle for us Ets fans. Guys, sound off in the chat again. Let me know. Do you think they make the playoffs? I got to be honest. I really don't see it happening at this moment right here. Obviously, I'm a little emotional about it. This has been a really bad 2 weeks. Tonight was the cherry on top of a shit sandwich. But the way this team has been playing, the stretches that we have seen from them throughout this year, and with the current roster construction, I don't see how it happens. And guess what, guys? Tomorrow, we get to watch Frankie Montas pitch. We're back. We are back. Frankie Montas is about to throw a complete game shutout for us tomorrow, and we are going to come right back and get on the horse again. We are going to take the final 2 games of this series versus the Brewers. The Phillies are going to lose both their games against the Rangers, and we are going to get back to within 1.5 of them, and then I wake up and I realize it was all just a terrible, sick dream, because that's probably not going to happen, any of that, if I'm being honest. Let's go preview tomorrow's game before we wrap things up here, guys. The Mets will be taking on the Brewers tomorrow, looking to avoid losing their 4th consecutive series. They have it listed as to be determined, but I do believe David Stearns confirmed Frankie Montas will be making his regular start. There was some talk that the Mets might use an opener in front of Montas earlier this week, but Stearns said earlier today that he will just start the game per usual. So it'll be Frankie Montas. I'll have to go find his stats here. I don't know if I can at the moment. I know he has a 6.68 ERA so far this year, so that's really inspiring. And meanwhile, the Mets will be taking on Tobias Myers, who is probably going to look like Michael Myers, as he absolutely carves and kills this Mets lineup so far this year in 6 games, but 5 starts. Has a 4.30 ERA in 23 innings pitched. So let's see what he did his last time out. Again, a guy I've never heard of, and maybe it's just because I don't follow the league as much as I probably should, but this is pretty much a no-name guy. I would think he looks like the long man in their reliever, because his last 2 times out, he was pitching in relief. I think the last start he made was on May 17th. So perfect. Yes, this is a long man in their reliever who was probably recently recalled from AAA, and I guarantee you he is going to just absolutely destroy and carve this Mets lineup tomorrow, because that's what this Mets team does, right? Just inspire the opposition all the time. Just great. Armand says this is not a playoff team. Nope, not the way they have been going for the last 2 weeks, not the way we've seen them perform for weeks on end throughout this season. It's been a sprinkling of a little bit of good that really wasn't great baseball, and then the rest has been absolutely awful. Not looking like a playoff team at all. I'm totally with you, Armand. Rod says bring back JD Martinez. Lots of people have been saying, hey, why not bring back JD Martinez? Because, a lot of people have credited him with 2024 as recently as this week. Francisco Lindor said, you have no idea how much JD Martinez meant to our lineup, meant to our hitters in the dugout. Okay, so here's an idea. Eric Chavez, Jeremy Barnes, pop them out. Pop JD Martinez in. I don't know at this point. Like I said, I'm desperate. I will try anything to get this team back on track. So if it means bringing in JD Martinez as a special consultant, pay the man what he wants to get back into that dugout, because this team looks dead in the water. Armand says Myers is taking the start for Logan Henderson because he just got put on the injured list. Okay, perfect. Like I said, so a guy who's coming in to make a spot start that doesn't have very good numbers is absolutely going to just crush the Mets tomorrow. We have seen this movie so many times. It's as many times as I have seen the movie Anchorman, which is about 100. No joke, probably about 100. One of my top movies of all time for sure. Did you see Happy Gilmore 2, by the way? I asked that in one of my previous streams. What a disappointment. I mean, you knew what it was going to be, but like, come on, like, got a little goofy at the end there. There's a lot going on in that one. Let's see. Lightstream 78. Chavez and Barnes are from the previous regime. Why are they still here? Doesn't Stearns want his own guys? Well, they were here in 2022 under Buck Showalter. That was Showalter's first year with the team. So they didn't come in the previous regime in the sense of before Steve Cohen, but they were obviously here when Billy Epler brought them in. Billy Epler came in, he hired Buck Showalter. Showalter or Epler combined brought in Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez. They have been the co-hitting coaches, right? It's kind of like Dunder Mifflin, co-regional managers, right? Dwight and Jim. Well, who's the real one, right? Obviously, it has not been working. They have both got to go. We have been saying this, but it seems like we're just speaking to deaf ears here because it doesn't look like anything is going to change in terms of the Mets coaching staff, at least not this year. Red Bear Fox says, not sure what's going on behind the scenes, but how is Cohen as the owner not raising hell? He's a radio silent. Culture always starts with the owner and the leadership. I mean, what can Steve Cohen really do unless he wants to just fire somebody, which I guess he could do, but what are you supposed to do? I mean, I do believe that the Mets have one of the brightest baseball minds in charge of the operations in David Stearns. I think he did a good job for the most part to put this team in a position to succeed this year, but there's obviously a lot of flaws about this team, and those also fall on David Stearns. I think he needed to get a bat at the deadline instead of just Cedric Mullins. He didn't do that. Part of that because the market dictated it that way, and I'm glad that Stearns did not sacrifice a big part of the future to do so for just a rental like a 34-year-old Eugenio Suarez. But at the same time, this is now what we are watching. But again, as someone else in this chat said earlier, I think it was you, Red Bear Fox, there was not just one or two bats out there that were going to change this lineup. They weren't going to get Juan Soto hitting. They weren't going to get Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo hitting above the Mendoza line since the All-Star break, since July 8th. That's the line of demarcation. Really, that's after the Mets rallied in Baltimore when they were losing 6-2 there in the 8th inning, and Steve Cohen dubbed those guys the Fab Four because of the 2-run homer from Lindor and then the 2-run homer from Pete Alonso, and the Mets go on to win that one. And what happened since? The Mets lose the final 2 games of that series in Baltimore. And those 4 guys, 3 of them are hitting under 200 since then. Lindor, Alonso, and Soto are hitting under 200 since July 9th. Nimmo just barely above 200. All of their OPSs below 700. In the case of Lindor and Alonso, their OPSs below 600. So, yeah, you could have brought in a bat or two, but at the end of the day, the core 4, the Fantastic 4, they have not been living up to the hype. They have been letting us down. Guys, leave a like on this video if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. We're going to go for a little bit longer here. Sandman Games, Morse Buttermaker, new coach. I don't know who Morse Buttermaker is, but it sounds like a pretty weird name. Armand says, if JD was so important, then why didn't they re-sign him to DH this year? And why didn't Lindor or someone else speak to Stearns and Cohen to bring him back? Look, JD Martinez's playing career appeared over. Like, yes, he had a decent year with the Mets. I think he hit 16 or 17 home runs, but he lost a lot of bat speed. He was not the same guy, even from the previous year that he had spent with the Dodgers. But if he was that important, they needed to find a way to bring him in and keep him as a hitting coach, as a consultant, something where he'd be able to stick around this clubhouse and in this dugout and be in the ears of these guys. But again, I don't know. A lot of people tell me you can't just blame the hitting coaches. They're not the ones that go up and swing. So can you credit JD Martinez for being that consultant guy if they were swinging it well? I don't know. I don't know the answer. But again, ready to do anything. Mookie wants to speak. Joe, you could hear that. Here is Mookie. Let's see if he wants to make an appearance for the camera. Come here, Papa. Oh, come here, Papa. No. Yeah. he needs to go out soon. So we're going to wrap this up here pretty soon. Yeah, Joe, Mookie was getting antsy. He's just as upset about the Mets play lately. Red Bear Fox to Armand says JD Martinez was important as a mentor. He's a terrible baseball player now. Would have been foolish to sign him. Okay, right. Again, just basically what I was saying. Baseball career looked like it was over for JD Martinez, but could have been brought in as a consultant, as a hitting coach, as anything. I mean, we already have 2 hitting coaches. What's one more, right? Why not bring JD Martinez in? Clearly seems to know more than Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes do, apparently. I don't even know if those guys were in the dugout last year. They were probably playing cards in the clubhouse while JD Martinez was acting as the de facto hitting coach for this team in 2024. Armand, based on Heyman, report about Luis Robert, I would have sent Acuna to the White Sox. Now, that is a misconception from what I understand and what I have heard about those potential trade negotiations with the White Sox. He said the Mets weren't willing to part with Acuna or Vientos, and he may have listed Beatty. I don't recall, but a lot of people are getting hung up on it being Acuna for Luis Robert. Who wouldn't do that? But it wasn't just Luis Angel Acuna. They wanted a top 5 prospect in addition to Luis Angel Acuna. They asked the Phillies for one of their top 5 prospects. So if you think it was just going to be Acuna for Luis Robert straight up, you're wrong. And I'm not even saying that Luis Robert Jr. is an excellent, great baseball player, not to mention the $20 million club option that he's due next year. That makes him even less attractive. For some reason, the White Sox thought he was way more valuable than he actually is, but it would have cost you a guy like Nolan McLean or Brandon Sproat plus Luis Angel Acuna. So I think that tweet from John Heyman is getting taken a little out of context, and people aren't realizing that it was going to cost a lot more than just little Louis Acuna. Lightstream says the worst part is we have 2 lights out closers who we can't even use right now. My God, I thought when we got this group for this bullpen that the Mets were never going to blow a game again. Problem is, you can't blow a game if you're not in a position to blow it in the first place. You got to be winning the game to blow it, right? So unfortunately, you're right, man. We got a really solid back end of the bullpen, and the Mets can't ever seem to use it when they actually have a lead. Salmon Games, I'm old. He was the Bad News Bears coach. Okay, no, you're not old. Moore's Buttermaker. I love it. Okay. Red Bear Fox, when it's an entire team that can't hit, you can absolutely blame the hitting coach. The Mets' problem is philosophy and approach. That is 1,000% hitting coach and organizational. And I've been screaming it from the rafters, screaming it to the heavens, pounding my fists on the table for all to hear. This is a philosophical issue with the Mets lineup, and it starts with Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. The strategies and the ideas, and again, the philosophy that they have employed upon this lineup. I even saw something, and I don't know if this is true or not, it was on Twitter, but that they apparently did tinker with some things on Juan Soto. If I was Steve Cohen and I just signed Soto that contract after the year he just had with the Yankees and the career he has had up to this point, I would have kept Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez a million miles away from Juan Soto, my brand new flashy toy, my brand new investment. And if that is true, my goodness, that is all the evidence that I need to hear that Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes need to be fired. Guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in. It has been a rough 2 weeks of baseball for the Mets. And unfortunately, I'll be honest, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel here with Frankie Montas taking the mound for them tomorrow. This is probably really going to be another ugly, really bad loss tomorrow. But I'll be here just like I was tonight for you after that one. We'll have another post-game recap after tomorrow's game, game 2 of the series again. Tobias Myers pitching for the Brewers. Frankie Montas, the Mets stopper on the mound, trying to avoid losing their 6th consecutive game, their 4th consecutive series, and falling even further behind the Phillies and behind the rest of the National League in the playoff mix. So we will be here for you for that. Real quick, let me quickly look at the chat here. Armand, Mark Vientos, Luis Angel Acuna, Jacob Reimer, or AJ Ewing were the players listed in the Heyman report. Yes, those were the players listed in the report, but it was going to cost more than just those guys. It was basically one of those guys plus a top 5 prospect, or it could have been 2 or even 3 of those guys that you just mentioned, which changes it entirely in my opinion. But that is just my understanding of how those negotiations went down. Red Bear Fox says Mookie Betts has been struggling and he just had JD Martinez fly out to give him some assistance. That is insane if true. And the Mets need to have him on retainer, because what the actual F? Do the Dodgers really need any more help? Come on. Rod, I can't believe that Stearns still believes in his staff. What else is he supposed to do? I mean, he could fire them, but it doesn't look like he's going to do it. Livestream, does Montas make it out of the 3rd inning? I'm going to say yes, but he's going to give up 5 runs in 4 innings tomorrow. The Mets are going to probably lose 5-2. That's my prediction for tomorrow, guys. Guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Be sure to leave this video a like if you have not already before you go. I really appreciate it so much. Thank you to everyone that commented. Thank you to all the viewers. Thank you to enduring another horrible, painful loss from the New York Mets tonight. We'll be right back at it tomorrow with another post-game recap immediately after Game 2 of the series. But until then, I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.